and how do they complement each other? They should not replace each other. They should complement each other. They should strengthen actually each other. And this is, I think, one of the most important discussions, content-wise, that we have to resolve to be successful in the long run. At the end of the day, it's not about harmonizing everything to one technical level and cutting down the peaks and lifting up the lows, but it's empowering everybody so that we jointly, as a whole construct, can move faster, which not necessarily means to lower the highs, right? Please don't do that. Successful communities need to be successful in the future as well. But at the same time, we want to benefit because we learned how to leverage the demand from communities and put them into practice. So for example, if you have a platform like we have seen yesterday in the keynote, in the material sciences, where a lot of people worldwide on a global scale are now interacting, using data in many new ways to come up with hypotheses and find answers to open research questions. There are many more examples which we see on stage today, and I don't want to show this to steal the show from the upfront. But actually, the question is, they have solved it already. So what is it that we add more into the space? Well, it's the learning experience by transferring what can be achieved to other communities. And this should not be underestimated. If I look into our own NFDI communities, we have some communities who are far developed, who have such platforms, but we also have a long tail of research communities that have not yet established themselves into such an organization and into such a working platform. So one of the open questions is, can there be a shortcut for these kinds of communities? And can this be done by knowledge transfer and by technology push? And the technology push in this case is the EOSC Federation. So this would be my very rough picture on what we can achieve with thematic contributions in the EOSC space. Now here's my wish to all the panelists and also to you in the audience. Please dare to ask the nasty questions, because if we not resolve it, there will no one resolving it for us. So we as a community need to sort this out. And I think this is right now at the center of what we need to clarify. I don't have answers, but I have many questions, so I will contribute as well. But I'm eager to find the answers to the questions. And with this, I hand over to Maria Luisa to set the stage for our session. Thank you.
Thank you, Jörg. Thank you for this beautiful introduction to our session. And without any delay, I want to invite to the podium the first panelist, who is Jens Habermann. Jens, please come to the podium. And Jens is actually the Director General of BBMRI ERIC, the Biobanking and Biomolecular Resources Research Infrastructure, European Research Infrastructure Consortium. Jens, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Maria Luisa, for this kind introduction and also for the organizers to inviting us to present BBMRI ERIC here. I would basically echo Jörg's words, and I'm curious on the podium discussion afterwards. But let's start. So what are we representing here? BBMRI ERIC is the European research infrastructure for biobanks and biomolecular resources in health and life sciences. And I think this accords to the community we are representing here. Now, BBMRI ERIC is, as all the other life science research infrastructures, a purely distributed research infrastructure. And this figure just shows you a little bit how the setup is. So we are very proud of every one of the 20 member states and 5 observers, but the operative backbone really are the more than 400 biobanks in our member states, which are coordinated by our national nodes and then interconnected basically with the headquarters, but also our 3 biotech expert centers and our expert groups in ethical, legal, and societal implications, quality management, and information technology. So keep this picture in mind if we talk later on operations and community engagement and bring everyone up to speed in basically accounting for EOSC. Now, all the setup, as you were seeing in BBMRI ERIC, is also structuring the European research area through relevant EU initiatives, and starting from Cancer Mission, Cancer Beating Plan, pandemic preparedness, European partnerships in Horizon Europe. Of course, we are proud to be an EOSC member and supporting through different EOSC projects. Then we have been substantially supporting the EHDS2 pilot for the European Health Data Space, but also engaged in public-private partnerships. In addition, BBMI ERIC is also very proud to coordinate the ERIC Forum, which brings together all the 28 ERICs, also now in the second project funded by the European Commission. And we see each other as linking also our ERIC partners in the different initiatives we are entering into. Now, BBMI ERIC's future perspectives relevant for the EOSC Federation would be on 2 bullet points, let's say. Datafication of the biobanks and biomedical resources with the biobanks operating as data centers really afford and allow the availability of data sets, but also the further development of incentive schemes for data generation, data sharing, data reuse, and data return. And this is done through already a federation of federations with our governance setup, from the local biobank, regional networks, the national node, the national environment, basically composed then on the European and beyond level. We are also bridging gaps between scientific disciplines, research communities and regions by bringing together health, food and environment, research and development communities, accounting for the One Health approach. And these principles really are embedded in the new 10-year BBMI roadmap, which is Biobanking for a Healthier World. And this roadmap is one unique activity, basically, because it is approved by all our 24 member states, including IAC and from the WHO, and facilitated by all our 25 national nodes and all the biobanks around it. So this is quite a unique community engagement and alignment process that we went through it. Now, showing you a little bit what we can offer just as a flavor is our federated access pipeline. And I see the formatting is not quite correct, so sorry for that. But what you can see here is basically a learning and enrichment cycle. So you see on the one side the scientist who can basically look into our direct and federated platform. But let's start in the middle where, for instance, from the human side, patients give consent for use of sample and data. They are brought into the network of biobanks and national nodes, and they provide the data then in our directory and federated platform. And these tools are basically search tools, but also analysis tools, composing the data sets of 400 biobanks across 32 countries on the one side, and a much more granular search and analysis tool, the federated platform on the other side, which has been just established 1 year ago, but already features more than 450 donors with about 200,000 genomes across 10 European countries. Now, if a scientist finds anything of interest in our search and analysis tool, then there will be use of negotiator tool, which is a matchmaking tool between the individual providing site and the scientist. And if it comes to an agreement, data sample or service delivery, then we have results in the end. And these results can individually help, for instance, individual patients or clinicians, for instance, in molecular tumor wards, so entering back whoever provided the data. But these data are also returned to the network of biobanks national nodes. And here it's either the biobanks or the national nodes or the headquarters who can collect the data. So we have a federated, accessible of data, but we have also centrally hosted repositories. And you can envision that all these projects that are facilitated can be basically regarded as individual use cases in different scale and in different settings, so to say. Now, overarching our aligned, harmonized data tools, they capture at the moment more than 7,000 OMAP variables, 10 terabyte of whole slide radiology imaging data, for instance, any kind of omics data, connection to national registries or other data types and surveys and so on. And this entire process is basically facilitated by a log-on for the life science AAI, developed and implemented by BBMI. We also provide an LC help desk and an access help desk, so to say. And all these tools are on the TRL level 9. And in addition, overarching, we provide also a BBMI Academy, which allows the training education in LCIT, quality management, biobank development, certainly of course, but also health and life science research and development activities, including outreach and engagement. So this is what the BBMI community at large could offer in EOSC and is very keen to do so. And of course, the community also wants us to find out what is then in for the community itself. And this is something we will probably discuss in the community, on the podium discussion. As I said, the roadmap has been really a community alignment and engagement process. If you want to read more, please scan it and even come back to us if you see ways where we can collaborate together, because we want to be as integrative as possible, the same as EOSC is set up as well. So with this one, I think I'm staying in time and would hand back to Maria Luisa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jens, for presenting BBMRI with this very large variety of different type of data, health data, and also kind of services. Please prepare your question that will be addressed to the panelists at the end, and also from remote, you can ask questions through the Slido. And now it's my pleasure to come to the podium to Sarah Pitonet-Gajerin. Sarah? Sarah is the Senior Manager and Stakeholder at Trusted Service with over 10 years of experience in implementation of complex digital outreach and marketing strategies, particularly in the context of open science. Sarah is the coordinator of Blue Cloud and also is the outreach manager of the Fair Impact Initiative. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Maria Luisa. Thank you all. I'm glad to be here today. Oh, great. So I've been asked to provide with an impulse speech to kickstart a discussion on thematic communities and the approach towards thematic EOSC nodes. So I'm here to present what we are currently doing in Blue Cloud, which is an Horizon Europe project that is candidating itself of becoming an EOSC thematic node. But Blue Cloud is also positioning itself as an incubator for the European Digital Twin of the Ocean program, for instance. We position ourselves as an incubator of innovative computational models that are based on valuable knowledge, relying on data coming from a variety of resources. So this is the vision that we have so far of the Blue Cloud thematic node. And we have tried to assess this with respect to the requirements and the specifications that are currently available for the EOSC EU node. So at the core, you'll see the core capabilities that Blue Cloud is offering in a virtual research environment where researchers can access services for performing data preparation, services for data analytics or data publications, all to be done in a collaborative way with a mandate to share, reuse, and make all the services there reproducible. And we've also assessed the offer that we have in Blue Cloud with the federated capabilities that EOSC is offering and demanding at the same time. And actually, we are pretty well positioned, we believe, at least in the sense that we have, as you see on the top left of the slide, on the bottom left, sorry, of the slide, a data catalog. It is still shaping, but it's there. We have AAI, federated identity, which is provided via EGI, so with the same federated identity of EOSC. We offer services for workflow management, for monitoring and accounting of resources, for positioning orders, and of course there is help desk and support. All this is combined with a data discovery and access service that is there to facilitate the retrieval of data and data products that come from other research infrastructures, from blue data infrastructures providers, those that you can see listed there, and also from data aggregators active in particular in the marine domain, such as EMONDnet or Copernicus Marine. And this is to say that Blue Cloud is not a data provider, is not a place where to deposit data products, but the work we are doing is to establish federated capabilities to facilitate access and usability of those data products. For instance, with the brokerage service that is actually being developed and offered within the Blue Cloud VRE and also open for further reuse. The virtual laboratories are the spaces where the experiments are done to test the models and to test the data sets and the software available there, where researchers work in a collaborative way to develop workflows. We have 5 currently running in different areas of relevance for marine research. We have virtual labs on aquaculture and fisheries, on services for coastal observations, virtual labs that are creating maps of coastal currents, and products for essential ocean variables dynamics, and mainly based on plankton or marine environmental indicators. In addition, I mean, last but not least, in Blue Cloud, teams and partners are working to develop processes to establish, to create, and give instructions and give, models to create data collections on selected essential ocean variables, for instance, in particularly on temperature and salinity, on eutrophication aspects, so nutrients and oxygens of the water, as well as ecosystem values, mainly related to plankton dynamics. All these services are there in a federated way, available to be offered to the EOSC node, of course, but also to other nodes, networks, and as well to respond to the broader and higher objectives, for instance, of the Mission Ocean strategy linked to the digital twin of the ocean programs. And here is a slide courtesy of Mercator Ocean International and Blitz, who are leading the EDITO project for the setting up of a digital twin of the ocean platform, and where, Blue Cloud is positioned as one of the providers of services for the EDITO data lakes or the EDITO engine. So Blue Cloud, of course, is not doing this from scratch, but relies on 50 years or even more of work of research infrastructures that starting from a global level and then tuning down to a European dimension are working to improve and agree on common standards and best practices to work with the data and the data that we have. So we've heard yesterday that from the speech from Claudia Draxel that we should really go beyond interpolation of services from one survey to another and challenge ourselves with innovative ideas, but based on quality data. And this is exactly what we try to offer to the marine community in this case. We work together with multiple research infrastructures to innovate and strengthen the fairness of the data, metadata, and machine services. For instance, working with them to update control vocabularies, to enrich their metadata offer, and to streamline and document services, for composability of the services, one after the others, to build bigger AI. So in a sense, we are also working on the pipeline underground, underneath the fountain that we've seen this morning. All this is offered in an environment which is flexible, open, and that follows open science principles for collaboration. And since technology is not enough, we strongly believe in working in a community environment with a community up approach, because I know of another way of having children tidy up the room, or this is how I do with my daughters, and it is tidying up the room with them. And so this is also why we build together different communities, and we are doing this also in a couple of weeks. We will gather the Blue Cloud community in Lisbon for a first federation workshop, where we aim to assess the offer that Blue Cloud is bringing to the EOSC with other research infrastructures that are not yet part of Blue Cloud, but that might face similar challenges and needs related to the marine, climate, and environmental specific research. So we have invited a few, we know the list is not complete, but for instance, we will have EuroArgo, ILTER, ICOS, so Eurobis, Climares, and other projects joining us in Lisbon to discuss on these similar challenges, put our services on a table and see where complementarity is and how we can work together toward creating an EOSC in practice. Thank you all.
Thank you very much for this beautiful presentation, from the biobanks to the oceans. Very nice. And then, now I'm pleased to invite Andreas Witt, who is the head of Department of Digital Linguistics at the Leibniz Institute for German Language in Mannheim, Germany, and also he was a member of the board of directors of Clarin ERIC. So Andreas, the floor is yours.
Yes, I want to talk about language as a thematic domain, and I would like to highlight the significance of the thematic domain language. As you know, language is crucial for the transfer of information and, hence, for information technology. It should become an important domain within the European Open Science Cloud framework. Language, as we all know, is fundamental not only for the humanities, but also to all scientific disciplines. It is the primary means through which communication of scientific results is done. Language is everywhere. It serves not only as the medium of communication, but also as data itself. We are dealing with vast amounts of language data, not only in the humanities, but in every scientific domains. With the advance of the large language models, mentioned several times in the morning, and that underlie many modern AI systems, generative AI systems especially, the need to process and manage and integrate language resources has become more critical than ever. These resources are fundamental to the digital infrastructure that now powers many aspects of scientific work. In Europe, the large-scale infrastructure for managing language data already exists. Several do exist, from my point of view, most notably the Clarin ERIC, an ERIC that plays a central role in this space. Clarin in a nutshell, Clarin, which stands for the Common Language Resource and Technology Infrastructure, was established on the ES3 roadmap back in 2006, and it gained ERIC status already in 2012. And it became a landmark in 2016. Clarion provides easy and sustainable access to digital language data, whether written, spoken, or multimodal. And this is across, is an example for a consortium within the social science and humanities group. As we heard just from Jens when he was describing the BBMRI ERIC, Clarion is also a decentralized infrastructure. The infrastructure includes tools to discover, to analyze, and to combine language data, all within the secure single sign-on environment. Moreover, Clarion fosters an ecosystem for knowledge exchange. Its services, some of which are already integrated into the EOSC framework, enable researchers to interact with language resources in a new and dynamic way. Now let's talk about Clarion's role within EOSC, or potential role within EOSC. As a member of the Social Science and Humanities Open Cloud Initiative, together with the ERICs Daria and CESTA, we just heard a comment from the director of CESTA. Daria is also here. And Clarion decides with these shock initiatives to go for to become a Clarion node, the others to become an EOSC node, and the other consortia will follow. And Clarion aims to create a fully operational EOSC nodes in the first round. This will enable the provision of federated language resources from 73 of its centers, and enhancing interoperability and resource accessibility across disciplines. Moreover, as an EOSC node, Clarion could expand its specialized services for LLMs and other large-scale language data tasks. Its established expertise in federating services will be crucial, from my point of view, to the ongoing development in the EOSC infrastructure. So to conclude, language is not just a communication tool, but a data source that plays a vital role in the broader scientific ecosystem, and Clarion's integration into EOSC will further enhance the way we manage, share, and use language data across disciplines. Thank you.
Thank you, Andreas. And then I invite to the podium Marek Sebesauer, who is biochemistry and immunologist at the Institute of Physical Chemistry of the Czech Academy of Science, but he is also actively participating in the work of several task forces, working groups, and opportunity areas of EOSC, focusing on practical aspects of fair data management and sharing. Marek?
Good morning, and thank you for a kind introduction. I'm standing here not as a representative of any infrastructure or any project. I'm standing here on behalf of a community of material scientists and engineering. You heard a very nice success story yesterday from Claudia Drexler on Nomad services, and this is a very good example to jump on the message from York about the successful introduction of data management and open science ideas. To go a little bit further behind this one example, there are many others, but what is the issue of this domain is that it's rather fragmented. And why it is so? As other domains similar to them, this is not specific. We are quite heterogeneous. And so we have some large infrastructures, but we have also much smaller infrastructures. And there are very, very many small groups working in this field, and which are not really yet integrated via any infrastructures. But this is not the biggest issue. This could be organized rather easily. And where to start? What can we bring to the EOSC Federation? We can bring the very good experience with the broad spectrum of activities which start from laboratory experiments and computational simulations. These are very nicely fused in material sciences. And we are, because of the topic we are working on, this is very well integrated with the industrial research and development segments, and even the implementation of products in real practice. So this is a strong point of our community, which definitely we can offer the EOSC Federation. Also, another thing which is very strong in our community is that we are very tightly connected to other domains, such as chemistry, physics, biohealth, food, because all these materials have aspects from other domains. However, as I said, at the moment, we have it is not that this domain is not doing much in direction of open science and data management and fair data, but it is very fragmented. Even the good example is Germany, which has several consortia which fall under the umbrella of material sciences. I'm not saying it's bad, but I think, and we already started communication across these not only consortia in Germany, but also with us in Czech Republic. But we definitely have to continue this discussion and get to some point where we will be able to speak the strong voice of this particular community. And this is even more fragmented at the global level, because there is very nice development in Korea, Japan, US, and elsewhere. And again, we should not forget, EOSC is important for European Union and Europe, but the disciplines are not limited to the borders of Europe, even the broader borders. So we very tightly communicate across this globally. But as a consequence of this fragmentation, there is rather poor engagement of researchers from this domain in open science. This is the unfortunate thing. So what we are doing now is, I already mentioned some things, but what is happening at the global level, Research Data Alliance, we are trying to harmonize some semantic assets. It's not always important, but it is at the end important that we understand each other. Before me was a linguist, and we need a common language. So this is a hard work which is ongoing at the moment. And definition of standards, that was especially well stressed by Claudia. But what we desperately need, and we are at the beginning, in contrast to other domains, is that we need to get equipment manufacturers on board. And why I'm mentioning it, because the one strong part of this domain is that we are heavily involved in automatization of processes. If we want these huge data and the good quality data in our repositories and so on, we need to automatize the processes, and this is exactly what material sciences and especially engineers are doing. And I already mentioned that we are linking repositories which are in this fragmented environment. So, do we need thematic node in EOSC? Well, probably yes. In this case, I already mentioned the experience we have and the strengths, but we would also probably use it as an umbrella or a master activity to better integrate the activities of this domain. So this is probably not for the first wave, but definitely, please don't forget about our community, material sciences and engineers. With a node, we would be probably able to do it better. And on an example of a Czech community, I would like to illustrate how to do it. We are lucky because we are part of a relatively unique and very successful Czech EOSC initiative, and which is also reasonably well funded. So we will be able to work on this for 3 years and already integrated almost pretty much everyone in this field to working groups, material sciences and engineering. We call it MATECH, and we have representatives of pretty much all infrastructures relevant. universities, other research performing organizations, which in our country is Czech Academy of Sciences mainly, with some ministry linked institutes as well, but we were also able, and this is very key, to bring commercial subjects into this community. And this is exactly what we are very heavily working on, also with German colleagues who are also quite successful in bringing commercial subjects into this community. And we are creating a repository, and you can argue why we are creating another repository. There is Nomad. Unfortunately, Nomad cannot cover everything. Nomad is an excellent tool, but we will be very tightly communicating with Nomad, and before sticking to how we are bridging our activities to the resources, we are definitely making the community, the Czech community and working group is very tightly linked to German consortia, such as Fermat, NFDI for Energy and others, but also, as I said, there are other activities, for example, overseas, for example, in Korea, in Japan, or in the US, NIST. And this is helping to make a system which works together with all the, as I said, the fragmented resources. The good example is Nomad, but there are many others. In the linking these tools and in bringing the standards such as ontologies and, for example, tools such as electronic laboratory notebooks into the community, and this helps to improve the quality of data we are collecting in our data banks and repositories. And with this, I would like to thank you for your attention and give the word back to Maria-Louise.
So, thank you very much for presenting, this material science community, although fragmented, is very important. And now it's time for me to invite to the podium to Niels Hoffmann. Niels is a bioinformatician researcher with extensive experience in lipidomic and metabolomic, and also is part of Elixir Germany department, specifically working with German network for bioinformatic infrastructure. Niels serves as a member of the EOSC task force on technical interoperability. Niels, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the kind introduction and also for the opportunity to speak here. I think we are quite life sciences heavy today, actually. And this talk will also add to that. So I'm representing the German Network for Bioinformatics Infrastructure. This is a funded project by BMBF originally and created in 2015. Since 2022, we are part of the Research Center Jülich, part of the Helmholtz Society, and we provide bioinformatics tools and services for the life sciences with the primary objective of serving the German research community. We provide computing resources and other services like training, for example, and also transfer of expertise to, between academia and industry. And we are also the national node of Elixir Europe. As you can see on the right-hand side, we are also a federation of several members, ranging from universities to other Helmholtz institutes, but also Leibniz institutes, and I think also Max Planck as well. So we are serving a quite diverse academic environment and research environment in Germany, and many of our partners have specializations in certain areas of life sciences and bioinformatics, for example, in human bioinformatics, in plant bioinformatics. So we are serving quite diverse fields there. As you can see in the bottom area of the slide, one primary task that we are trying to achieve is also training. So that's one of our prime objectives, to not only offer the services, tools, repositories, and databases to our community, but also to offer comprehensive training, to bring people on board into the system to learn how to use our services. One of the more prominent services that we offer is the federated Denby Cloud infrastructure. This consists of 8 federated cloud locations throughout Germany, operated by universities and research institutes. offering a comprehensive login process via life science login. So we are already connected to some of the core infrastructure that is also being used in EOSC, but we had the route of access via our membership in Elixir Europe, actually. So this is also connected to EduGain, so you can simply log onto the system and request resources. Of course, owing to our funding structure, we are primarily serving the German research community again, so a German PI is eligible to request resources on this system. But other researchers from other countries can use the resources after the PI has approved the project. We offer different levels of support there, so basically from infrastructure as a service or platforms as a service up to virtual research environments with SimpleVM, for example, and we also host in Freiburg one of the largest European Galaxy nodes, of course, which is really also suitable a lot for end users in the applied life sciences. As I mentioned earlier, we are also part of the federated European infrastructure Elixir Europe. Elixir Europe has also submitted an expression of interest to become an EOSC node. Germany and DENBI are also one of these members that would support this application. The Elixir Consortium currently consists of 21 member states with more observers plus EMBL, and the node in Germany is operated by our network. So we are basically DENBI and Elixir Germany, with all of our participating institutes in the DENBI network also being part of this Elixir Germany node. And in total, we provide over 130 tools and services and repositories to the community. Of course, everybody can use them throughout Europe or also worldwide. We also host so-called Elixir core data resources. So those are data resources that have been selected and vetted by the Elixir board, basically, to make sure that they adhere to certain FAIR principles and also consider a certain quality aspect concerning the users. So what are our contributions to a potential bioinformatics thematic node in Elixir, in EOSC, together with Elixir or also with other initiatives? So we are a very interdisciplinary network already. So we have connections, strong connections to bioinformatics primarily, but also connections to other data and life sciences initiatives. We have a strong focus also on applied AI for life sciences and bioinformatics, and also connections to medicine, biobanking, for example, and other applications in these areas. We are very strongly user-centric, so we have established training programs, comprehensive reviews of the training quality to make sure that the training meets certain standard criteria. We organize hackathons. Also, you might know the Elixir Biohackathon. We have a similar German Biohackathon as well. Provide a comprehensive help desk and facilities for knowledge transfer through our industry forum. We are strongly interconnected, as I've shown you before on the slide. So on the European level, with the Elixir network and other EOSC initiatives and EOSC projects, for example, we're also taking part in the EOSC Entrust project in the Providers Forum for Trusted Research Environments. So we also offer secure processing environments on the DENBI cloud infrastructure. On the German level, a lot of NFDIs are connected with DENBI cloud activities, for example, but also our members are also part of many NFDI consortia. We follow the FAIR principles and try to enforce them in our services that are being registered as official DENBI services and apply quality criteria for their selection and further development. And as a result, many of our services are productive. Not all of them are TRL 7 to 9. Some might have lower levels, but many of them are already productive. And I think through all of this experience that we have gathered over the years in building up this network, also through the interaction with the local NFDIs, with the Elixir community and other European initiatives, we might bring some unique perspectives to the field that try to combine different fields and also different governance models, because we are already a federation and would be a federation in a federation of federations, which of course has additional issues attached to it. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much for this presentation. As we could see, I mean, we have a panel of experts in different, domains, and also different link with different type of communities. And we are very keen to start with some questions. So we have a number of pre-prepared questions for the panelists, and also we will be happy to take questions from the audience and also from people from remote through Slido. So I want to start with the first question. The first question for all the panelists is how you envisage to facilitate engagement of infrastructures and communities into the EOSC Federation. Who wants to start?
Yeah, I can make it brief. I think the idea of this Federation of Federations is the best way to proceed because, as I mentioned with the examples of the existing ERICs, there are already federations that provide a lot and that can provide a lot, and making these federations actionable in a way to be operational in the EOSC is a very good approach, and I like this very much, so I'm pretty optimistic.
Please.
Yeah, maybe I just continue what basically Niels just ended with. What I started actually was the presentations with this Federation of Federations in the different research infrastructures already being there. And I think this is a chance, but it's also a challenge to a certain extent, because I think what we understand, or sometimes difficult, is to understand that if a headquarter or basically the overarching governance talks with EOSC Association, the tripartite, and so on, we are reflecting and we are basically mandated by our community. And we cannot take always ad hoc decisions because it needs to be aligned with the community through the national nodes, through basically the scientific community in our member states. If they buy in, they will convince also their national government to buy in, and this is basically the approval that we as research infrastructures need to move ahead, because we don't have any kind of play around money available. Our budget approval is really going with a work program with specific incentives. So any kind of in-kind contributions is very difficult for us, especially in the life science domains, I would say, at the moment. And here we would need a closer and probably also earlier involvement with the activities within EOS, because that would allow us to go back to our community. And if we have their buy-in, this is a community engagement, I think, that will also drive EOS substantially forward, because then we have everyone on board. And I think this is a huge opportunity, but there I think we should look into our processes, how to enable that we can reach out and get them on board. And I think in line is also the financial and workload related commitments that we need to confirm with our communities, also from the member state level, so to say. And I think in the end we all want the same, but we need to use the different channels of outreach and engaging. And I think that's what we're all here for. And sometimes we just need to optimize maybe the formalities to get there.
Yeah. Continuing that, I'll mention two points. It's not just facilitating the engagement, but actually the reason for engagement. One is for sure continuing working on standards and agreed practices, because it's extremely demanding, time-consuming. I mean, bringing people together with a bottom-up approach as well, agreeing on how to name things, how to change small items in an identifier. I mean, it takes time, it takes practices, you need to test this, and you need to replicate this with X number of entities that you're, working with. But once you reach that, then you can move on and then pose your questions on how to maintain and sustain this, because this is useful and allows the community to work together. And in parallel, having people working together, so organizing meetings, or I've heard hackathons as well. We also tested the Blue Cloud services in hackathons inside and joining different hackathons, because this is where the people that are eager to develop AI, develop end-user applications, use the open science products that we developed, and this is where they come back with feedback on the usability and the usefulness of the methods that we develop. So.
A lot has been said, and I agree. I would like to point that for our community, it is the national way how we can relatively quickly join the federation. But on the other hand, as I said, it would be very good to create a thematic node at a later stage and be in the federation of federations and learn more and get to the points as education standardization. And of course, as I said, we can offer the experience with automatization and robotization.
Yeah, I think we've heard already a lot of different positions. I don't really have a much differing one. I would just say that. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't have a really differing position to what you all have said already. I would just like to add that for us, it was always important, especially for biohackathons also, and to engage the community, to identify community champions. So people who are already very active and well connected and already know, for example, about verification principles, to bring them on board as users of your infrastructure to help you understand what they need from you. Because I think we all have different domains, but very similar requirements in many ways. So technically, we have a lot of things in common. So as previously said, I'm also on the EOSC Task Force for Technical Interoperability. So there are a lot of cross-cutting concerns. And we have people in the networks, I think, who are interested in building up infrastructure and providing infrastructure. But of course, our users are the ones who are driving the use cases. And offering them something compelling that helps them, I think, also gives us the momentum to also talk to our funders, maybe to include some additional funds to actually be able to sustain these lateral interactions and this technological interchange that we need to do to learn from each other.
Well, as a follow-up of your comments, my question is, what is your perspective on the concept of nodes and the readiness for participating in this big project of federating several nodes and participating to the architecture of EOSC?
Yes, that's a tough one. But my view on the nodes is somehow, so we talked about this maybe national nodes, what is a little bit fuzzy for many people, and the thematic nodes. We are talking about this right now, and the thematic nodes are definitely a very good way to approach the variety of areas, and the node concept allows to make a reuse of something that has already been developed. But in a way, and I'm coming also to the risks of this approach, one of the risks is that EOSC has to show what is the additional benefit for this. So many of these nodes combine activities that are already there and that are already work. And my answer to this additional benefit would also be one of the strengths, namely that the interaction between the disciplines is possible. On the one hand, technologically, this is something we can all benefit. We have technologically wise quite similar requirements, but also from the exchange perspective, that some disciplines can benefit from the activities from other disciplines. And this is, from my point of view, the most important aspect of these node concept, the integration and the interaction between these nodes.
Yeah, Maria-Luisa, you put us on the spot here. If I could be able to escape from the podium, I probably do. No, to be honest, I don't have a clear picture yet of what a node should be in the end. And I think, aligning with you, there will be different forms of nodes, I believe, and one-fits-all concept probably won't fly, as we're representing different communities, different setups that have been developed regionally, nationally, internationally, and I think it would be absolute wise to take all those different capacities, developments on board and allow them flourish within EOSC. So I think it will probably in the end show when we start working together, connecting, what it means to be in a node. But I think it's also
one of the principles of EOSC is the inclusivity. So
exactly.
Right.
But it's probably something where we need to be honest to each other in terms of expectation management, what we expect from each other, what we can commit to. And I think this is something which these symposia like this one will help to get there. But I'm not sure if we are there yet fully. I leave it with that for now.
Well, I think that when we deal with thematic communities, of course, EOSC inclusivity, okay, can be understood, but we must admit that, I mean, thematic communities worked in ways that go beyond the boundaries, sometimes that EOSC is proposing for great reasons, for open science reasons, but there are also things beyond that. Thematic communities go beyond national boundaries, European boundaries, processes. Not everything is open science, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have a value on a two-way interaction for them as well. But we work with international organizations that have other constraints. I've mentioned fishery. FAO is one of the partners. Well, it's not a partner, but I mean, they are benefiting and working with Blue Cloud partners to produce atlas and models, but they have limitations to follow due to their UN international role and legal obligations. And so I think the most delicate thing for thematic communities is balance, the need of open science and getting the benefits of open science with all the other practices and objectives that they face across the different domains.
So we are in Germany, and Germany is federation. So maybe not perfect example of federation similar to EOSC, but it has its points. So EOSC is perfect because we are bringing everyone together, but also you have nodes where these people can have their, I don't want to say that own rules, but to some extent, yes. So they can much more quickly to step in and learn about the federal rules and create EOSC for everyone. So this model of nodes and diverse nodes, so you can have specific issues at the thematic or discipline level, but you can have and you will have, because of the business models, you will have an issues which are national. So this allows to bring everyone in and let them feel at home.
Yeah, I think specifically the national, this way? Okay. This way, perfect. Thematic, sorry. For the thematic nodes, I think the interactions are really the most important part. So defining what a thematic node is basically up to the community. And that can involve resources from national nodes, for example. It can also involve resources from regional nodes or other nodes. But it's ultimately the community that needs to define what is their requirement about this node. So what should this node offer as a benefit to this community? And through this direct interchange and connection, I think it's also possible to cater the node, the thematic node, more specifically to the needs of the community and do it in a faster way, instead of trying to shoehorn a more general node into the functionality that you need for a specific community. So I think that's one of the big values of having these different types of nodes.
Thank you very much for giving your perspective on the concept of the EOSC nodes. Now I want to ask whether there are questions from the audience. Yes, there is one over there. Can we have the microphone? Please present yourself.
Get another microphone. Sorry?
I don't really know how to turn it on. Okay, yeah. Asta Mathur, Eurobioimaging. Thank you for presenting your perspective. This has actually been really useful. And although one of the considerations is, an important consideration is to make sure that different communities and everybody's included, I'm actually mindful of, and I guess my question goes in the direction of actually the overlap. It's not just we want to make sure that everybody's included, but the fact that we will have very similar services and those would be offered by different nodes. So how do you guys reconcile with that? Because I'm pretty certain it will happen because that's also how technologies evolve, right? It's not just, we know how it looks like today, but we do not know how it will look like tomorrow. So if it's not happening already, it will in future. So how does that work? I was only asking questions. You guys are supposed to answer, thankfully.
I think we missed the right people to answer the question, I guess the purpose of the federation is to allow for accessibility of resources according to different level of availability and complementarity. But I think that this is what they are trying to build and rule in a certain way.
Yeah, very valid question. I think that's a question that we all ask ourselves. I think there is, to my understanding, not a master plan yet where it gives boundaries to the different to be enrolled nodes, how they should confine themselves. I believe it's also up to us as a community overarching with different communities to align and make this happen. I think for the life science research infrastructures, we are on a very good way, also thanks to additional funding from the European Commission to work in different projects to close gaps and avoid overlaps and rather use synergies. I think that's what is also a strong message to EOSC to basically onboard us, because there we have already some experience and I think are already collaborating closely and making use of resources there without overlapping. But on the other communities, of course, this is, I think, really on all levels of the governance where we need to look in carefully to avoid overlaps and wasting resources. Very valid point.
So for coming back to my example with language, so language is probably seen for a long time as a kind of humanities activities and nobody cares outside of the humanities. And with the rise of the large language models, it has been visible that this communication means is also a mean of technical communication, and this can serve at a certain point also as a way to improve interoperability, not only between systems but between systems and people. And this might be an option to serve as a layer between these different domains. And the same is true already for the technological aspect. So everybody needs persistent identifiers, everybody needs an authentication infrastructure, and so on.
I think there is no problem to have similar or even heavily overlapping services. We anyway have it now with all the projects, all the countries and so on. And in the federation we can better align and use the resources, available resources together. At least this is probably the aim.
I mean, one hope probably would also, via the EOSC Node Forum, to have some sort of technical coordination, maybe also a coordination concerning capabilities of certain services that nodes offer, to make sure that this overlap is reduced to the minimum amount necessary, basically. Because there may be other constraints why you have different services, basically, from governance or funding or whatever.
Now we have a question from
Slido.
From Slido.
Yeah, hi. So thanks to the Slido community, we have a number of questions. All of them are interesting. I just choose the one on top right now. How do we make sure that private companies that harvest and use open data in their business models openly return findings, results, and knowledge? That's a killer question. Attack it.
So, so I do have a pessimistic way to answer this, but it might also be seen as a realistic way. I think we can't make sure. We can't make sure that sorry. Yes. Yeah. So we can't make sure that this is not turned into some kind of value for these companies. But on the other hand, if we lay out our resources, if our resources are available, many researchers, but also companies can make use of the data, and in the end, this might also be a benefit for the whole community. So we can't do anything, but maybe this is not so, it's not that much of a bad thing.
Short answers, because we have lots of questions.
Okay. On the experience of BBMI Eric working with SME, but also larger industry, I'm more positive because I think they already see that we need to work together, and having an embargo period where they can make use of the data generated for their own IP rights and so on is absolutely sufficient. And they are very much in favor of enriching the wider ecosystem for more knowledge gain. So my personal experience is rather very positive about that.
I would like to support this view because, as I said, we have even a commercial partner, and at the European level, we also communicate with many more. And I don't see there's no way. They are quite keen on sharing, especially about materials. Of course, a little bit more general information, not the very specific one, but I'm pretty optimistic this will work.
Just to mention that we cannot force them to give the products back, but we can show the interest in having. So we also have a potential uptake from industry, could be the aquaculture industry, for instance, in getting the services that we have, because or we find a niche that they don't cover, or they have free services, for instance, to exploit.
All right, one answer from my one little answer from my side to this question is obviously in research we have this reputation mechanism, and donating data sets more and more results in getting reputation by being cited for providing the data. So at least in research we have one incentive mechanism available, which is good, but maybe that doesn't hold for the question with respect to companies. So maybe we need to think about this, because clearly incentive mechanisms over time will have a benefit on the system. I choose to combine two questions because then they somehow relate, and they are more on the general level. I'd like to encourage you to have a look at the Slido questions, because there are a number of questions that are domain specific for your individual platforms, and maybe you would like to engage with the persons during the coffee breaks. So here's the combination of questions. What are the mechanisms in the EOSC Federation to learn from already established processes of existing initiatives? So how would you transfer your experience into EOSC and the EOSC Federation? And that can be combined. Oh, it moved somewhere else. I think I can get it. It can be combined with a question, are there already success stories for shortcuts? So in my introduction, I said, well, now by providing, for example, the EOSC EU node, we provide basic functionalities that some of the thematic nodes have already established. So the basic assumption is it's now much easier, hopefully, to establish such a platform in a domain where such a platform does not yet exist. And the question is, has there been already some kind of success story? Of course, the EOSC EU node has been released yesterday, so it would be really fast if there's a success story today, but maybe it works. However, in the long run, I think if these stories pop up, then you can convince people that this is a good platform. And I remember very well that 15 years ago, CEOs of well-known North American companies who provided a marketplace and resources, they told these stories as success stories, how to quickly set up a business by just reusing the resources provided. And by that, they really leveraged and tapped into whole communities to open up their businesses. We don't open up businesses yet right here, but we open up research infrastructure platforms. And the hope is to speed this up. So the combination of the question is, how would you like to see the process of bringing your expertise into the federation, and are there success stories?
Maybe I can start. I'll mention two examples we have in Blue Cloud. So for instance, we have opened the virtual research environment to 2 virtual laboratories that were not originally conceived within the marine domain. So we are offering 2 virtual labs with all the services they have for 2 cases from a project which is a ferries running on environmental monitoring. So partially matching with the marine research we do, but not exactly inside, so funded, let's say, under the same pot. But since we have those resources, they are available for a federated way, the objectives match, and the needs for processes of the data are probably aligned. This is one case. Another one is we are also supporting with cloud resources EMONET, one of the portals that of EMONET, so EMONET Physics, for instance. This is another case, which is outside EOSC.
Maybe one basic service that we have been using for a long time, Life Science AI, is one example of a technical service that we didn't have to implement ourselves. We don't have to operate ourselves, and we profit immensely from being able to simply use it, using the EduGain Federation for authentication and also using their systems for authorization to regulate access to our system. We're using it in a customized way for our needs, but we are using the existing infrastructure and are really happy that someone else has put in the work to design the system, to implement it, and also to provide it for us. Without it, we would have, as I said, had to do it ourselves, and would have also keep up the maintenance all the time, and that's also something that is often underestimated, I think, if we develop these systems. This takes a lot of time and effort, but they still have to be maintained and run for a long time, and 3 years of funding periods usually is really a short time to get a pickup from your community. So that community adoption is really something to take into account here as well.
I would briefly go to this aspect of success stories. So I do not have a specific success story, but I think if you look some 10 or 15 years back, all where we are is a pure success story. We open science is a topic, sharing data is a topic, fair data is a topic, interoperability and sustainability of this is a topic. And remember back some 10, 15 years, this was not the case at that time. And this is a success in itself.
So I mentioned it during my talk that in Czech Republic, in Czech EOSC, we were really very successful in activating the material sciences and engineering community. Another thing is that in this domain we are learning a lot from industry. We are really taking on board the industry technologies and skills, and this helps the community also to move forward much faster.
I think we have so many different success stories on the local, national, international level. We saw some examples here today, so I think even if they might not be all connected yet to EOSC or meant as such, I think they're already there. How to learn from it, I think, is a complete different endeavor. Within BBMI ERIC, I think it's where we have across the member states, across the community, specific expert groups, where certain activities are taken forward, where the knowledge is maintained, where formal trainings are then inserted in our academy with online, with face-to-face trainings, basically train the trainer and so on. This is already coming with sort of resources needed to maintain that knowledge. I think once we enter into connecting new nodes to the EU node, how to do that, how to capture that knowledge, that's another setting, I think, where we need to think of. I believe summer schools, winter schools, whatever you call it, might be good, but we might need to think of even capturing that knowledge gained in a more formal way, and that also will take resources, because in kind only, I mean, that's the glue that we need to really make EOSC live. And I think the glue cannot be just in kind. That would be a very loose, I think, endeavor. So this is my plea here, to really think of it now, how to capture that knowledge and guarantee that this is maintained and even hands-on provided.
Thank you, and I saw that there are questions from the audience. Can we have the microphone here and also there?
Okay, I'm first. Very good. Francisca de Jong, Claire and Eric. And Clarin is a candidate thematic node. I know from discussions with many colleagues in many other organizations, ERICs and other RIs, that there are lots of questions about how the future, the governance, the reporting requirements in this new landscape might be. Because ERICs, for example, is a cross-country collaboration model where the ERICs have to report to the General Assembly, which is composed of country members, and their funding is coming from countries. But if the countries are also investing in national nodes, will then the national nodes of ERICs also be reporting to the national level, and how will the two mechanisms be integrated? And the fear is, that's the main reason behind this question, that the attention for what's happening in the local context may take away the awareness that there has been long and huge investments in thematic nodes by the countries. And the question is if that investment can remain up to the level that it is now, so that there is no threat for the sustainability of the thematic nodes. So it's a concern that is existing among many thematic RIs. And I would like to know if you have opinions on how that could be, how that concern could be taken away.
Any comment on this? I mean, it is true that member states invested a lot in the infrastructure, and now they are expecting also infrastructure to contribute to what is one of the main goals of several countries, which is, you know, the implementation of the open science and EOSC. So, any comment from any of the thematic communities and infrastructure?
I think I can just echo your questions. I think we are not here to answer it because we're in the same position, all of us, to find out. And I think that's what I can only say. And I think it's really about coming back to this expectation management, right? If we commit each other to connect and build in EOSC, I think there are a lot of questions around the finances, decision-making, legal setups, and so on, commitments. So it's at the moment really to explore expectation management. But on the other hand, if we don't start, I think we can build the nicest concepts, but never know if that is operative. And so I think we need to start somewhere, but we need to be all very, very, very open to discuss, identify gaps and maybe challenges and how to overcome them. And I think this is what I see.
Yeah, thank you for this response. I think we should all make sure that this is then on the agenda. This tension, these concerns, these question marks, they should be on the agenda. And I haven't heard a lot about them here in this meeting. And I know it's been discussed at several places, but I think we should all be aware of the need to keep an eye on this
discussion
agenda.
Will be for sure reported in the tripartite group. And we have exponent of the tripartite group in this room already. So there is a question here.
Yes, thank you, Giorgio Rossi. So I think we don't put enough accent at the thematic level on the transformative effect that the EOSC will have on the data production, so on the research level. We have the options that is discussed of verification or with more advanced methods, maybe based on AI. But I think it's the production of native, fair data that impacts the management of laboratories, the kind of instrumentation that you implement and you acquire and you force industry in offering to you. And in other words, the interoperability of the research, production, infrastructures, factories, organizations, call it as you want, is the counterpart of the interoperability of the outputs of the research, which is what more directly EOSC is addressing. So I can make an example that for a project in Italy, an FFA digital infrastructure project is part of the recovery plan. We had as a requirement, it's in a nanoscience, so it's borderline with the material science that was discussed earlier. We had as a requirement for the procurement that every instrument should have data outputs in open format. And I assure you that it's a big constraint for the industry. The industry doesn't do it. And if you want to have an automatic acquisition of metadata, so if you want to produce fair by design research outputs, you have to collect all this data from your new instrument. At the end, industry will align with that. And at the end, but it's not a faraway end because you put it as a requirement in the procurement, European laboratories will be able to be more interoperable also at the production level, not only at exploitation of the output results. So I think this is one of the merits that can come from thematic nodes, from thematic communities getting involved heavily in the EOS process. Thank you.
Maybe just brief comment that this is exactly what I said, that we need the equipment manufacturers on board of these activities. And this is happening in some domains, much less, for example, in material sciences, but it's coming, as you said.
You can force it.
Yeah, well, yes. Well, in biological imaging, we have 20, 30 years of experience. It works to some extent.
And another aspect that adds on this is the quality controlled data and products that is coming out of all this work, and probably that is not be done as much or as far as open science is doing. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much for this example, because this is exactly what I meant with these success stories. So this mindset has been changed in the last couple of years, and such a requirement essentially mirrors this new mindset, and industry has to follow. And we need open formats, we need standardized formats, and this is there, thankfully.
There is one very last question, because we are, very close to the lunchtime.
Thanks a lot. Fulvio Galeazzi from GARD, the National Research Education Network for Italy. Still on data, because I think that's where the real gold is for researchers. Currently, in the 10 minutes I had to play with the EOS node this morning, I saw that there is room for improvement, to say the least. There's linked to retracted UIs, a huge number of records which is not categorized, search engine capabilities which could be improved to focus on author, metadata, or title. So can you further comment for your thematic areas of expertise on the concrete immediate steps? So what are the criteria for deciding what kind of data will go into the EOS node or thematic nodes first? And what steps are you going to take in order to ensure that we make a leap forward as for the usability and exploitability? Thank you.
This will require another
Well,
session.
I can make it brief. So the thematic node provided by Clarion will give all the metadata to the EOSC, so everything is available, is searchable, and if possible also reusable. So we do not want to make a kind of a part for EOSC and a part that is still only available for the Clarion group. So the idea is to make all the data open, and this is in line with the ideas of open data and open science.
So for BBMI, I would refer back to the very complex slide that I showed with the circle, with this access pipeline in a federated system where we have so many variables that we already have harmonized. This is continuously expanded, but also on this search and analysis platform, this is also expanded with a lot of partners, academia and industry, but this is already up and running system, so to say. So invite you to make use of it.
So we are also closely collaborating with Elixir Europe, of course, and they have lots of verification initiatives, lots of training involved for the different communities that are part of our bioinformatics community in the different domains. And this is where we try to skill up people to provide data in fair formats. We also try to identify gaps where formats are not existing, for example, and try to also support the communities to come up with fair formats to describe the data in a better way. So in the long run, to improve the verification of the data, and then also provide support and also promote repositories that follow these FAIR principles and make the data findable again.
Yeah, I would not exclude all the processes in the chain, because the verification and harmonization of the raw data allows for researchers to index them easily and create knowledge on top of that. But at the same time, the knowledge on top of this data must be as well as fair as possible. So the models, the processes, because these are those that in the end will be uptaken also not just by researchers, but the market, I would say. So.
Well, I would just add to what was right now said, that it is the thematic nodes which has a chance to bring the communities which don't work only on compatibility, interoperability. This is, of course, very important issue, but they also bring granularity into the metadata schema, so you will get very highly specific information, and that helps the search and usability of the data. So it is actually the thematic communities which bring this key information into the platform.
And with this, thank you very much. Thank you to the all panelists. We have 2 minutes of delay, so I wish to thank all of you, and a big applause for the panelists. And also let me thank my colleagues Jörg, Jan Rusak, and also Wilhelm Widmark, who is not here, for the preparation, for collaborating in the preparation of this session. Thank you very much, and I invite you to the podium for the picture, please. So have a good lunch.